Infancy, or the period of the newborn, is according to standard dictionaries the beginning of the early period of existence as an individual rather than as a parasite in the mother's body. Dictionary also define an infant as a child in the first period of life. Characteristic of infancy. Infancy is the shortest of all developmental periods. Time when the fetus must adjust in life outside of the uterine wall of the mother where it has lived for approximately 9 months. According to medical criteria, the adjustment is completed when the fall of the umbilical cord from the navel. It is completed when the infant has regained the weight loss after birth. It is completed when the infant begins to show signs of developmental progress and behavior. Although most infants complete this adjustment in 2 weeks or slightly less, those whose birth has been difficult or premature required more time. In spite of this shortness, infancy is generally subdivided into 2 periods, the period of the parturient and the period of the neonate. Subdivision of infancy. Period of parturient from the birth of 15 to 30 minutes after birth. This period begins when the fetal body has emerged from the mother's body and lasts until the umbilical cord has been cut and tied. Until this is done, the infant continues to be a parasite and makes no adjustment to the postnatal environment, the environment outside the mother's body. Period of neonate from the cutting and tying of the umbilical cord to approximately the end of the second week of postnatal life. The infant is now a separate, independent individual and is no longer a parasite. During this period, the infant must make adjustment to the new environment outside to the mother's body. Infancy is a time of radical adjustment. Birth is merely an interruption of the development pattern that started at the moment of conception. Infancy is a plateau of development. Growth and development suddenly stop at birth. In fact, there is often a slight regression such as loss of weight and a tendency to be less strong and healthy than at birth. Normally, this slight regression lasts for several days to a week, after which the infant begins to improve. By the end of the infancy period, the infant's state of development is usually back to where it was all the time of birth. Infancy is preview of later development, like a preface of a book that like a table of its contents yet to be unfolded. Further, the preface is itself merely a rough draft undergoing revision. There are some clues to the nature of the book in the preface, but these are in code form and taking them as literary prophetic is likely to lead in disappointment. Infancy is a hazardous period. Physically, it is hazardous because of the difficulties of making the necessary radical adjustment to the totally new and different environment. The high infant mortality rate is evidence of this. Psychologically, infancy is hazardous because it is the time when the attitude of significant people toward the infant are crystallized. Many of these attitudes were established during the prenatal period and may change radically after the infant is born, but some remain relatively unchanged or are strengthened depending on conditions at the birth and on ease or difficult with each the infant and the parents adjust. Major adjustments of infancy. Temperature changes. These are a constant temperature of 100 degrees F in the uterine sac, while temperature in the hospital or home may vary from 60 to 70 degrees. Breathing. When the umbilical cord is cut, infant must begin to breathe on their own. Sucking and swallowing. The infant must now get nourishment by sucking and swallowing, instead of receiving it through the umbilical cord. These reflexes are imperfectly developed and birth, and the infant often gets less nourishment than is needed and thus loses weight. Elimination. The infant's organ of elimination begins to work soon after birth. Formerly, waste products were eliminated through the umbilical cord. Conditions influencing adjustment to postnatal life. Prenatal environment. The first condition that influences that kind of adjustment infant make the postnatal life is the kind of prenatal environment they had. A healthy prenatal environment will contribute to good adjustment to postnatal life. On the other hand, there is many kids of ensuring disturbance that can be often due cause an infant to be born. Kind of birth, natural or spontaneous birth. In a natural birth, the position of the fetus and its size in relation to the mother's reproductive organs allow it to merge in the normal head first position. Breech birth. In a breech birth, the buttocks appears first, followed by the legs and finally the head. Third, transverse birth. In a transverse presentation, the fetus is positioned crosswise in the mother uterus. Instruments must be used for delivery unless the position can be changed before the birth process begins. Instrument birth. When the fetus is too long to emerge spontaneously or when its position makes normal birth impossible, instrument must be used to aid in delivery. Last, cesarean section. If X-rays taken during the later part of pregnancy indicate the complication may result if the infant emerged through the birth canal. The baby is brought into the world through a slit made surgically in the mother's abdominal wall. Experience associated with birth. A mother medication during birth process. Ease or difficult with which infant starts to breathe. Length of gestation period. Premature and post-mature. 5. Prenatal attitudes. Favorable and unfavorable maternal and parental attitudes. Preparation for parents' duties. The childbirth experience mild physical condition after childbirth. Concern about expenses, evidence of defects, infant's postnatal adjustment, infantile crying, parental resentment, concern about normality. Postnatal care. The amount of attention infants receive to ensure that their need will be met satisfaction and relatively promptly. The amount of stimulation is received from the time of birth.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning. Today I will be discussing the characteristic of infant. The physical characteristics from birth to 6 months, the baby or the infant have no control to their body movement. And it reflects us because the nervous system is not fully developed. The first month, the eyesight of the infant 10 inches away from their faces is not that clear, but when they reach 6 months, it fully developed. By 4 months, the infant have some control to their muscles and nervous system, and by 5 months, most baby can roll over. 6 to 12 months, the infant can eat 3 meals a day and drink from the bottles at various times. They start using a cup and a spoon to feed themselves. Infants can sit alone and they can reach for and hold objects. They start to throw things. By the time they are 12 months old, most babies or infants can weigh 3 times what they weighed at birth and gain about an inch per month in length. The average infant at 1 year may be between 26 to 30 inches long. In terms of social and emotional characteristics, by 6 months, the infant begin to develop trust to their parents. Most of their way to communicate is through crying. Also, they smile in response to a pleasant sounds or a full stomach. 6 to 12 months, infants respond when you say their name. They begin to fear stranger. They begin to fear being left by their parents. They get angry and frustrated when their needs are not met in a reasonable amount of time. Infants will talk to themselves in front of a mirror. They begin to learn what is and what is not allowed. Eye contact begins to replace some of the physical contact that younger infants seek. In terms of intellectual characteristics, birth 6 months, they study their hands and feet. They turn to locate the source of sounds. Infant can focus on and follow moving objects with their eyes. They explore things with their mouths, and as I said earlier, they communicate through crying. They express hunger, anger, and pain in crying. 6 to 12 months, infants wave bye-bye. They respond to simple directions. Infants make sounds like dada and mama. They make sounds that can be understood by people who know them well. They begin to pretend by acting out familiar activities. They repeat actions that cause a response. By 12 months, many infants speak their first understandable words. And that are the most common characteristic of an infant.